Do you expect some kind of showdown, or do they get the deal done?
So I think we can expect both, actually. So I think there will be some brinkmanship. Unfortunately, you don't just have the Democrats and the Republicans. You have the Democrats and some Republicans and other Republicans, particularly the Freedom Caucus. And so I do think that the Freedom Caucus is trying to tie the debt ceiling to spending bills, and that will make it more difficult. And so I think that there will be some kind of showdown, but ultimately I think they'll manage to lift the debt ceiling.
Well, this is not our first time down this path. We've seen this a couple of times before. What have investors learned from previous efforts to resolve this debt ceiling quickly and seen that it can go into a government shutdown?
So in terms of a government shutdown, we've learned that if a government shutdown happens and you can't agree any kind of spending bills, which is separate from the debt ceiling, but related particularly as the Freedom Caucus is trying to connect them. If the government does end up shutting down, actually very little happens with the economy itself. So economic data isn't much affected. It's the very public parts of the economy that end up not working. And you see that in the markets. So you see equities tend to fall, yields tend to rise. If you have a debt ceiling showdown, though, back in 2013, we ended up having a downgrade by S&P. We saw yields rise significantly. If yields rise only a little bit, it actually increases costs for the U.S. massively. And so even if you don't end up defaulting on your debt, there could be repercussions in the markets for sure.
The easiest way to do this is to tie it in some way to a spending bill. And we've seen that minibus spending bill passed by the House. Just within that was a $1.6 billion amount for a Mexican wall, which is clearly not going to fly in the Senate. So how do we get around this? I know you said there's clearly going to be some negotiation and some horseplay here, but do you think that just gets chucked out? So
the only way around that, I think, is for the Republicans to take the wall and defunding Planned Parenthood out of it, because it's a red line, or it seems to be a red line for the Democrats right now. So I think they'll have to do something similar to what they've done previously, which is to come up with a fudge to say, well, in terms of the wall, we'll appropriate money to actually repairing parts of the wall that already exist rather than having the full wall funding. So there will be a compromise on that. The big question is whether there will be a clean bill, though, or whether they'll try to cut spending as the Freedom Caucus is demanding, and that will be difficult.
And Steve Mnuchin's kind of pushing for a clean bill here. That's the administration's line here. What's your sense from the Freedom Caucus? Because Mark Meadows, the chairman, did make this suggestion that perhaps a clean bill might be a possibility, almost recognising that, you know, this government is under a lot of pressure here. The GOP, particularly the infighting, they're under a lot of pressure here. And then he was seemed to be contradicted by a spokesperson for them. So where does the land lie at this stage?
Yeah, I don't think anybody wants to be blamed for a default of the U.S. All economists agree that would be bad for the economy, certainly, and we're going into midterm elections next year, of course. So there is a chance that the Freedom Caucus could back off of it and accept a clean bill. If they don't, actually, there is a bullish case which suggests that Republican leaders will reach across the aisle. And in order to get Democratic support, we'll have to agree to actually get rid of the debt ceiling altogether, which is what probably should happen.